Hey everybody, it's Book of Katherine, and it is just at the end of January, and I have some questions for South Jersey, and quite frankly, all of America. I have some really big questions about what's going to happen this year in 2020 when it comes to voting, because let me tell you, South Jersey just had a massive Trump rally, and they cheered for a guy who just switched parties like Mitch McConnell did. He was a Democrat, and when Trump came along, he just said, I'm going to switch and become a Democrat. I'm going to go ahead and switch, and I'm going to become a GOP. And he just switched his party. He ran for GOP, and guess what he did when the impeachment came along? Trump said he got up in front of the audience and he told everybody, I had to call him, and it took a while. And then the guy even said it. Trump had to say to him, what can I do for you? And the guy said, you have to come and put on a Trump rally for me. So Trump had to go down and give the guy his endorsement, do a Trump rally for the guy in South Jersey, giving the guy an apparent endorsement in order to get the guy to vote for him against impeachment in the House. And Trump still got impeached. But that's what I mean. This Democrat went ahead and ran GOP, wasn't going to vote GOP, didn't answer the president's calls. The president had to actually call this Democrat that said he was GOP magically. When you look on this Democrat's actual Twitter feed, do you know what he's doing for the people of South Jersey? He's funding with federal tax dollars equine ranches. Do you know what that is? Those are horse ranches, the absolute most expensive animal to house when America is full of farms. In the middle of America, farms all over America are farms. You can just send the horses to the farms, but oh no, you have to put real estate in the most expensive places where real estate is the most expensive in America, in South Jersey, where there are mansions that Judge Judy lives in. Go ahead and look at what the people in Manhattan, when they're done on Wall Street, they get in a helicopter, get up and fly over to Jersey, and they land in Jersey. When you look at this guy, Van Drew, when you look at his Twitter feed, he just has a large lake and a actual sailboat. That's his header. He looks like a Connecticut Democrat. And he is just, what does he get up there? He doesn't promise, and I'm going to go ahead and play it for you. But let me just say something to you, the people of America. I just need to say something as 2020 comes up. I just need to say something. Like, these 3 founding documents that I went and saw in the Congress, the founding documents of that America, that everyone did this whole patriot movement, this whole Tea Party movement, this whole thing that got all the Trumpers going, that everyone started wearing the red hat. The whole reason President Trump was won over the never Trumpers, the whole reason that even happened, is because they said we got away from the Constitution. Can we talk about why the Constitution happened? Can we talk about it? Can we talk about the fact that a parliament existed since the year 1200? The first parliament was in the United Kingdom since the year 1215, 1215, the Magna Carta. And do you know who was in Parliament? Do you know who was in the Parliament since 1215 in the United Kingdom? You won't believe it. It's who we have now. Yes, it is. It is rich and wealthy landowners. People who wear nice and clean suits that you think are the only people who can represent you. This guy, Van Drew, couldn't even enunciate his words. He was up there drunk, slurring his words on you. And the people of South Jersey just went, let's go ahead and see what this guy promised. Let's listen to Donald Trump, because I'm starting to understand that the reason Donald Trump is not in office working his butt off as much as he could be for these last 4 years. Have you ever seen a president having to do a rally every single week for all 4 years he's in office? Now we're learning why, because no one No one in the GOP will actually give him a freaking vote unless he goes and gives them and brings them up there and says, vote for this guy, vote for this guy. That's the only way they're voting for any of his legislation, is if he goes and does a rally in their area and says Trump. That's how popular Trump is that he does fundraising for them. That's how the GOP is doing monster numbers in fundraising, but they don't vote for his legislation. None of our legislation is getting voted for. Did the wall get passed? No. Are we going to vote in people like ourselves for fair representation that looks like you, that looks like me, that isn't a lawyer, that went to Ivy League, that's Roman trained, that sides with the equine industry of the royal British subjects? I'm sorry, the entire Roman Catholic Church, the entire British elite, all of the imams, they all go to the entire, even Japan, all the nobility of Europe, Japan, Middle East, Russia, they all go to the royal horse races. So let's read through, let's lip read this. Let's start to understand politics, because I'm really starting to get the feeling that when you see a Trump rally, you can't understand what he's actually saying. I feel like we just don't understand politics anymore. So let's understand what he's saying.
And the Republican Party is doing great. We are privileged to be joined tonight by a courageous leader who left the Democrat Party because he has had enough of their extremism, enough of their socialism, and enough of their vile hoaxes and scams. He's had enough.
Has he?
I'll tell you, he really is. He's a brave guy. He just said, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. It's a hoax. It's a scam. I'm not doing it. And we called him, you're right.
And we called him. And we called him. And we called him. Why does the President of the United States of the GOP, of the Republican Party, have to call another Republican's office? Why? They have to call. In politics, you don't have to call someone unless they are avoiding you. That's when you're like, come on, do something. When they're refusing to show up to work, when they're refusing to go to their office, they have to call them to try and get a hold of them. It's like trying to get a hold of your girlfriend and she's avoiding your call. That's what that means. Why is the president having to call a GOP member? When they say they're calling Nancy Pelosi, when they're trying to have Nancy Pelosi over, he's saying we have to call a member of the GOP party? You should never have to hear that. You should never, ever hear members of the same party saying they have to call one another. Ever! Big hint when he says, and we have to call.
It's a scam. I'm not doing it. And we called him, you're a rock kind of guy. Let's go. And it didn't.
And you're a rock kind of guy. Let's go. Why did they have to call him and say, you're saying you're a rock guy. You're saying you said, so why, where is it? That means, where's the vote? That means we called him because he did crap. Do you get it? We called him, you're a rock kind of guy. Let's go. No action.
Didn't take much because he believes like you're a rock kind of guy. Let's go. And it didn't take much because.
And it didn't take much. Tell me you get what that means. Please tell me you get what that means. And it didn't take much. That means you, South Jersey, voted for a man who promised you certain things and then he didn't deliver until the president had to trade things with him. It didn't take much. We are supposed to trade with the Democrats, not trade with your own party. It didn't take much. That means they had to sacrifice. You had to sacrifice your rights for bills with the Democrats. You had to sacrifice. It didn't take much. You had to sacrifice South Jersey.
As he believes like we do. We are truly honored to be here with the newest Republican member of the House of...
And that's the best you can do. That's the best you can do. I'm going to tell you why he has to say that other stuff, because he has to keep up his word. You'll see it.
Your great Congressman, Jeff Van Drew. And I have to tell you...
There it is. Every time President Trump goes, and I have to tell you, every time he says that, oh, turn that volume up. Turn that volume up. And I have to tell you, turn that volume up. Because when he says, and I have to tell you, that's when he's like, now I got to be honest with you. This is when I'm not going to politic. Now I have to tell you. I have to tell you. What do you have to tell us? What do you got to tell us?
A few weeks ago, Jeff was one of the few brave and principled Democrat lawmakers, in all fairness.
What did he just call him? A few weeks ago, Jeff was one of the few and principled Democrat lawmakers. Did you hear that, South Jersey? He's been voting Democrat this whole time. And I have to tell you, a few weeks ago, he's one of the few Democrat lawmakers. He makes Democrat law. He's registered GOP. He makes Democrat law.
We've been after him for a long time.
Oh, there it is. We've been after him for a long time.
A few weeks ago, Jeff was one of the few brave and principled Democrat lawmakers. In all fairness, we've been after him for a long time.
Chasing him down for a long time. So they've had to lobby him for a long time. In all fairness, you always got to pay attention. So I have to tell you, and in all fairness, always at the end, he suddenly gets really at the end, he lets it in the truth. And you really got to listen to that. Really got to listen to what's actually happening on the ground.
Up to the House Democrats and the outrageous abuse of power that you see going on right now. They can't win an election, so they're trying to steal an election. It's not happening.
That's right.
Folks. It's not happening.
They're trying to steal an election.
Jeff
Watch.
had the guts to defy the left-wing fanatics in his own party and to stand tall
in his own party.
of our
He just said it again. He stood up to the Democrats in his own party. Are you getting it?
Constitution, our freedom, and democracy itself. And I just want to, I have to tell you, I've gotten to know him really well over the last couple of weeks. He's a great guy. He's a brave.
I've gotten to know him really well over the last couple of weeks. That means he's been around for how long? And he hasn't been up on Capitol Hill at all.
Brave guy. He shares our values. He supports lower taxes. Not bad. They want to raise your taxes. How did that work, Jeff? How did you get elected with that one? Less regulation.
Good to pay attention to.
Defense. He loves our military, loves our vets and police, and he is a tireless champion for the state of New Jersey. He loves your Second Amendment, which is under siege by the Democrats.
All this is him putting pressure on that guy.
Jeff, it's an honor to be with you, please.
He just put a ton of pressure on that guy. Because that guy is not going to make any of those promises to you. Now watch what this guy does. He reads. First thing they all do, when you go back and look at all the rallies, first thing these jerk-offs all do, first thing they do, all these Ivy Leaguers are so good at Roman politics, man. First thing they all do to make you feel good about them and make a connection with you is they put themselves in front of the podium, but they make you cheer for Trump. They make you do a giant cheer for Trump, and they say it's for you, buddy, but they put themselves in front of the podium. And so that makes you cheer for them and makes you bond with them. And it makes it very hard to vote against them when you've already cheered for them. When they didn't have to do anything but say, cheer for this guy. That's all they have to do. And they know that psychologically, from all their little Nazi war tests back in their little Roman era in the 1930s, they learned from testing all the Jews during the Holocaust, they learned how much that connects us emotionally. And so you'll notice that every single lawmaker does this.
The president right here in South Jersey. What a great day! Now I heard that the folks in this room
slurring
more noise and more applause than anywhere in the world. So we're going to do one more time.
Slurring.
Right
here. Is that a promise? Did he tell them anyway how he voted for them? What he's promising? Any promises? Do you hear any promises? Nope. Do you see Trump any excited there? Not happy. Not a happy Trump. Not happy at all.
Now, when I was in the White House with the president.
When I was in the White House with the president, that means once. He did one deal. This guy's doing jack for you guys. He just enters the votes for the UN and that's it. He's taking a $200,000. Any of you could do this job better. Any of you can do a job better than you. Freaking put in your 18-year-old kid who doesn't have a job who's gaming. Put them in, they'll do a better job.
He asked how he could help me. I asked if he could come down to South Jersey and have a rally. Without even hesitating, our president said yes, and he is here.
Did you hear that? Did you hear what he actually admitted to? He's so drunk.
Now, when I was in the White House with the president, he asked how he could help me.
He asked how he could help me. There it is, ladies and gentlemen. He went to the White House only once, and the president said, "How can I help you?" After the president just said, we called him, you said you're this guy, we called you, we had to chase him for a while. And then the president finally comes to the White House and he says, how can I help you? And what does the guy say?
I asked if he could come down to South Jersey and have a rally.
That was what he asked for, and have a rally. Oh my God, that's actually what he says. That's what he says, and have a rally. And then he just says, praise God. Oh, he says, do you want this country to change? No. Do you love this country? Yes. He just cheers at the crowd. Do you love, do you love God? Do you love this country? Do you love Trump? Yeah. And walks off. And all I have to say to you is, congratulations. We are right back to where we were before, everybody. We are right back to Magna Carta 1215, and it's as if our 3 founding documents never happened. If you are unwilling to put in anyone but somebody who represents the rich landlords, if you are unwilling to put in they warred from 1764 all the way, 1787? Finally, the last thing, 1791 is when we got our Bill of Rights. That's a long time, 1764 to 1791, for all those documents and all that war to be done. We warred a long, long time for the right to self-govern, which means that I have the right and I have the ability. The whole argument was saying to the elites and the parliament, no, you can't govern us better than we can govern ourselves. I mow my own lawn, which means I know how to take care of my lawn best. And it turns out they're right. The people of South Jersey would never spend their taxes on equine horses. They'd say, that's the federal government's money. What are you doing? No, You shouldn't be spending federal taxes on equine horses. If a private citizen wants to take care of horses, that's great, but they don't get federal government taxes for it. No freaking way. We are not going to pay for the rich SOBs and their housing of equine horses for the royal families. Like, Congress is just completely... Okay, let me give you something that you're lovely by nominating people in suits that are Catholic, good boys, lawyers, put in Ivy Leagues. Let me tell you what you do when you do that. When you get the nice little clean cut with the tie who look all good. Let me tell you what you're getting when you refuse to put in the guy that looks like the one that either mows your lawn or does your does your refrigerator, or the guy who does your tiling. When you refuse to put in a guy that does that, or anyone who's a veteran, anyone who works with their hands, when you refuse to put in a regular guy, someone who drives an Uber or whatever, when you refuse to put in a house, what I'm scared to put in women now that I've seen the history of women rulers. Every woman ruler has enacted slavery and suppressed and oppressed women. I am terrified at what women rulers have done. So now I'm a little bit I'm a little bit where I need to study women more, but the history of women are freaking scaring the crap out of me. I've studied Queen Victoria now, Queen Elizabeth now, and now I'm studying Queen Elizabeth II now, and I am absolutely, and Queen Victoria, or Princess Victoria over in Sweden, and I am absolutely, and Cleopatra in Egypt, and I am mortified for womanhood. Mortified, and the women leaders of the UN, what happened underneath them, and I am just it's like women love sex trafficking and slaving or something like that. It's we really, really enjoy doing. I don't know why it's such a horrible pattern. And 1492, that was a woman. 1492 in Columbus of 1492, Queen Isabella, that was a woman that did. I'm just what have we been doing? Anyway, so that's just, so when you hear me talk about men, I've just, maybe because what I've been studying lately, but I'm just kind of leaning a little bit towards men. I'm Abraham Lincoln was man, and George Washington was man, all right. So, it's been interesting studying what women have done in history. I'm we don't have a great track record. No, we don't. It was men who gave women the earliest rights in history. It was women who actually... All the women were getting rights all through the first 100 years of America. We were getting land rights. We were getting rights all over the house. Queen Victoria was queen then, and she said no to all of it. She suppressed it all. And they had a female queen with all the power. And she said no to all of it. And Queen Elizabeth II right now is actually having her tomb refurbished with taxpayer money, saying that she did so much for social justice back then. And I'm no! She actually didn't. She actually reversed it. While the rest of the world was getting rights, she actually curtailed it back. Anyway, I would just like to ask America, if you're not willing to nominate the guy next door, you're just going back to where we were before. And let me give you an example. New York City. New York City has done this genius little thing where they have qualified all the private schools in Upper East Side School in New York City. They have gotten the taxpayers of New York City to underwrite all of the private schooling because the lawyers of the kids have said they're all special needs students. Do you know why that is? Because Dr. Phil works for BASF. All the skincare lines, number 7, BASF. Dr. Phil now for years has been saying that kids who are spoiled rotten, given too much money, and get to smoke pot all day are having a mental illness. He has been qualifying them as mentally ill instead of sociopaths who are spoiled rotten. So because they're now mentally ill and saying they need to go and get psychological healing instead of, getting their butt spanked or something like that. I don't know what it is, but they call it mental illness instead of calling a spoiled brat. I don't know. But now that they're no longer spoiled brats who are entitled and arrogant and dictatorial and enabled rulers, Dr. Phil has relabeled them as mentally ill. And so now the private schools of New York have gone in and lawyered up and said that all the private schools of New York have a bunch of mentally ill kids, and all of the taxpayers are underwriting their private school tuition to the tune of $112 million for one private school. So I am sorry if I'm just a little pissed that Americans are just like, sure, take all of our tax money, feudal kings and feudal lords, because we feel like we are inept and unable. We can't rule ourselves. I can't give about 2 hours of my week to rule myself. I am too powerless because they fought a war for 12 years saying that I do have the ability to self-govern. And I guess I don't. I guess we were wrong. I guess it has to be somebody who's drunk all the time and snorts cocaine all the time and believes that slavery is still a good thing and still owns sugarcane islands down in the Caribbean. So I'll just go with what they say. Are we seriously that stupid? Have we seriously regressed that much? The entire Caribbean is still monarchies. That's why it's still third world. They're all monarchies. It's either owned by Britain, France, or Spain. They're all still monarchies. We think they're so sad when they get hit with a hurricane or whatever and they yank. It's because all the monarchies own the press and they're like, donate. No, they're all owned by monarchies and they're kept low. Their monarchies actually have Britain for Barbados. Their actual royal coat of arms is a black hand with two sugar canes. Two sugar canes because it's sugarcane plantations. You do know the Caribbean didn't have any black people on it, right? It was Native Americans. You do know that. And yet everyone goes down there on the Royal Caribbean cruises and uses them and just, visits look at it. It's actually in leisure tourism brochures, the plantations, the sugarcane plantations. And people are like, oh yeah, they're still 250 years behind us. I can't imagine why that is. Maybe it's because it's called Royal Caribbean Cruises. Why are we vacationing in America where the people are free? And why aren't we trying to get the people of the Caribbean free? Why are we standing for it? Why are we standing for monarchies? And why are we insisting that we live as if it was a better way of life beforehand with a parliament that is not representative of our next door neighbor, but only representative of the rich landowners? Why are we only nominating the rich landlord's kid? Donate down below. And please, South Jersey, get rid of Van Drew. Are you kidding me? And every single Trump rally you see from now on, every single one, you can pretty much go ahead and listen and figure out that he's only there way ahead of the campaign trail. He's only there for that stupid GOP person because he refused to vote in the impeachment trial unless Trump was there. Look back at all the things for 4 years. All these GOP people have refused to give a vote on any bill unless he says, oh, this guy is a great guy. And like they say, oh, he's a man of his word. He came and showed up. As if Trump wouldn't have showed up anyway. But they made sure that Trump didn't show up and actually give his name to a regular guy like him. They were like, we will impeach you. We will impeach you unless you back a Democrat. And that sells us down the river and keeps a socialist government. It's up to us to go to the primaries this year and vote them out anyway. We can go to a Trump rally, but every one of those GOP suckers just be like, you're going out. You're out. Peace out. I hate treason. You know what they do with treason in the UAE? I found out. You get crucified. Literally crucified. You get a firing squad or you get hung in the UAE if you commit treason. You should see what our forefathers used to say about treason. And this is exactly what that is. So I've got a little bit of a problem with it. Peace out. Donate down below. Talk to you guys later.